Welcome everyone to Impact Dashboard Confidential. My name is Paul Shurin, and I'm an economist and partner with Impact Data Source. Thank you for joining us today for the second of our five-part webinar series where we're hearing from some of our Impact Dashboard users. Today we have with us Ann Miller from Buda EDC in Buda, Texas, just down the road here from us in Austin. Ann is going to talk about how and why she uses Impact Dashboard in her role as the executive director of the EDC. So over the next few weeks, we're going to hear from several others from across the country that are going to share kind of some of the insights on using the model. And so you can see the schedule here on this page. And I'm gonna turn the presentation over to Ann in just a moment, but let me mention just a couple of things. First off, we are recording the session today, so we'll make that video available once it's up on YouTube later today. But let me first take a moment to set the stage a little bit, explain who I am, what Impact Dashboard is. As I mentioned, I'm Paul Shurin. I'm an economist with Impact Data Source. Many of you may know my partner and work with my partner, Jerry Walker. Jerry started the company in 1993, so we have over 20 years, almost 25 years of experience evaluating economic development projects. And so we're almost exclusively focused on economic development impact analysis. And we work really two different ways. So the first is we license computer models or software so that clients can do their own studies in-house, and that's what Ann does at the Buda EDC. She uses Impact Dashboard. But we also prepare impact studies kind of on an as-needed basis, so one by one instead of an annual subscription. We currently have about a little over 80 clients, 80 economic development organizations using our model. We have two points of interest there around the last item on this page is the podcasts. We have two different podcasts that my colleague Nicole D'Souza puts on. The first one is Economic Development Secrets, and that's where we interview economic developers and learn a little bit more about how things go in their community, what's on their minds, and so forth. And then the 123 CECD podcast is another one geared toward those economic developers who are working toward their certification, and even chats with some people who have recently achieved that designation. And then finally, before I turn things over to Ann to talk about Impact Dashboard, let me kind of give a real quick overview of what Impact Dashboard is. So essentially, it's an online website where you can run your own economic and fiscal impact analysis. So you can evaluate potential projects and economic development projects. And so in that context, we are helping economic developers understand the impact on the local economy, so in terms of the direct jobs and spin-off jobs. We're also helping economic developers understand the tax impact. So are there additional property taxes or sales taxes associated with this project? And if there's going to be maybe some costs associated with it, how do those balance out? And then as many economic development projects will include some incentives of some type, we also allow users to evaluate the ROI of economic development incentives. And so this helps our users really be able to evaluate, zero in on incentives, and then make their case, so to speak, to city council, board members, and so forth, to show what's going on with a particular project and why it's going to be a good idea for the community to participate in some way. And so with that, I'm going to turn things over to Ann. And if you have questions, feel free to type them in the GoToWebinar panel, the questions section. We'll address those probably at the end. But for right now, let me switch this over to Ann so she can show her screen.
All right. Can everyone hear me all right? So I'm Ann Miller. I'm the Executive Director with the Buda Economic Development Corporation, and we've been using Impact Dashboard for, I want to say, a little over a year now. So I'm going to go a little briefly, tell you a little bit about us so you kind of know who we are. We're a Type B entity in Texas, so we are funded through a sales tax. We are separate from the city but affiliated with the city. We have a 7-member board and 2 full-time employees, and our budget is currently about $1.85 million, and about $1 million is usable for either our operations or funding projects. So why do we use the impact dashboard? So economic development used to be the greatest thing, and lately it's kind of become a bad word is the best way I can say. There's a lot of people who believe economic development is done in secret. It's a buddy-buddy system. So we use the impact dashboard because it provides, one, transparency and accountability. And sadly, it used to be that I could just say, well, this project has this type of benefit for our community. And with impact dashboard, now I have a third-party resource that's saying that. So that really adds to, well, it's not just the economic development office saying that. There's an actual report that shows the impact of a project to the city. And in our case, it actually shows to the city, the county, the emergency services district, and the school district. So this little spreadsheet you have up here. So when I started here, we actually developed our first incentive policy, and we used this lovely spreadsheet to determine the impact of a project. So this only looks at the direct tax impact of a project. It doesn't consider their employees or any other aspects. And just so you know, there is a sample project that I've run through the entire presentation. It's the same information for the spreadsheet as it is for the report. So we're just going to keep using the same project. So this is the same sample project that this is the one-pager that you get at the impact analysis report. And as you can see, I've put in some incentives in here. And basically for cash incentives that come from the EDC of $150,000, it's a 33.8% rate of return. It's a payback period of 3 years. So just this one page, I can show to the city council, I can show to my board, I can show to anyone in the community that says, you shouldn't give those people that money. We're never going to get it back. I can actually show them that, well, we have a 5 to 10 year performance agreement that they have to be here and maintain X number of jobs, and we're actually getting paid back by year 3. So year 4, 5, 6, 7, the city's actually making money off of the project. So how do we get the data? So we have an incentive application that projects we work with directly have to complete. If you want to get a copy of it, it's downloadable off of our website under the resources tab. We also can get most of the data we need to run an initial incentive analysis with the impact dashboard through RFPs from the state and region, or leads or RFPs from consultants. The main thing we need is jobs, wages, and their capital investment. So this is the sample incentive project that I was talking about. What you're seeing is what I call a little cheat sheet I put together for my incentive task force. So some of this information you're seeing down at the bottom is not probably going to be relevant to you, but this is the basic information I need to start putting information into the impact dashboard. So how long does it take to use it, and who uses it? So I am the user of the dashboard. It's really simple to use, so we could have plenty of other people use it. It's just I'm the one who uses it. When you're a staff of 2, you don't really need to give a whole bunch of people logins. The information gathering is probably the longest part of using the dashboard. If I have an incentive application, it'll take me probably 5 to 20 minutes to compile all the information that I need to put in the dashboard. And then the dashboard itself, inputting the information, takes me about 3 minutes. sometimes it can take longer. It depends on the complexity of the incentives. Sometimes I will run multiple scenarios. So there's basically generating another scenario and entering the incentives for that. I have used the Impact dashboard from an airplane with Wi-Fi, so it's accessible anywhere. I've used it from hotel rooms while I've been on a business trip. I've actually used it in a meeting to come up with potential incentives with a company we were meeting with. And we use it on every project where information about possible incentives is needed. So this is a screenshot of the dashboard from yesterday. As you can see, we've got a lot of projects in there. And then you can see under Project Prep School, we have scenario 2, we have a higher estimate of all 3 phases. And then the one that says Project Prep School School Impact, that is a report we ran for the school district because the school district was considering adopting Freeport, and Freeport in Texas is an exemption on inventory goods that leave the state within 170 days. And so there's no property tax. Well, the school district was going to lose some funding if they enacted Freeport, and you cannot get rid of your Freeport exemption once you enact it. So there was a lot of hesitation. And we were working with Project Prep School, which just recently announced it's not a prep school, it's a large industrial warehouse distribution spec project. We were working with them, and they really needed triple Freeport to be approved, and the school district was the last approval we needed. I was able to use Impact Dashboard to run a report to show the school district that, yes, they would be approving this knowing that they would lose revenue, but with Project Prep School, if they located here, they would actually make that revenue back and more revenue just on the construction of the buildings itself, not the tenants that would occupy those buildings. And so Freeport was approved by our school district, and Project Prep School moved in, made the announcement, and they'll be starting construction on 600,000 square feet of spec space here in the next month. So do we get questions and pushback from the community and stakeholders? Before we use Impact Dashboard, lots of pushback, lots of, why would you incentivize that? Why would you do this? And I will add, I inherited an organization that 5 years ago that had maybe done some questionable deals. There wasn't a good return on investment to the city. And so we've tried to fix that. And after we got the dashboard, pretty much all those questions and pushback went away, or it was very minor. And when you have people start asking you questions about incentives for a project and you can give them a very detailed report, then they kind of stop asking questions because they have all the information and they realize it is a good deal for the community. So who gets the report? So initially, the incentive task force, which reviews all potential incentives and makes a determination on what an offer would be, gets the report. And then as the project moves forward, then it goes, a copy of the report is given to the EDC board and the city council. And then after a performance agreement is approved and the project is made public, anyone who wants a copy of the report can request a report. We've given them to the news media. And lately, we've started giving them to the school district so they can know the impact on their revenues that a project will have. And then how do we present the information? So we use the full report primarily. And the sample project I've shown you throughout the presentation, I've made it so you can download that full report if you want. And then we use I call it the pretty synopsis one. When we make our project announcements and follow-ups, the news media seems to like that layout. So that's where we use that primarily. And then I will add, so this is, so I told you about Project Prep School. This is, we made the initial announcement on one day, And monitoring social media, there was actually a little bit of, I don't want to say pushback, just, well, we don't want industrial, we want retail, we want a Target type thing in our community, just from people who don't really understand how economic development works. So we had a social media follow-up post, and a lot of the information we used came from this report. In particular, we talked about the impact on the school district and the increase in property tax revenue, and that the incentives are being matched by so much in capital investment. So really, really good information for us to kind of combat any negative stuff that happens in our community about any projects we work on, just because people don't understand all the facts. So we have actually used Impact DashBoard, and I don't think they know we've done this, for another use. So it's helped us to take the politics out of economic development. So recently we've had some people who thought it might be a good idea to just get rid of the economic development entity, and not that we didn't need one. We were growing so rapidly. We're outside of Austin. And so we actually ran this report, and it's called the EDC Impact. And so we went back over the last 10 years and looked at all the projects we had worked on and took 60% of those projects and their property taxable value, which was $133 million over 10 years. And we generated this report that showed that over 10 years, from projects we brought to the city got $5.48 million in net revenue. And then we showed that the school district got $22.5 million in net new revenue from the EDC. And then we calculated what our property tax rate for the city and the school district would have to be if those projects didn't exist. And those numbers were kind of shocking, and it kind of got rid of all the whole idea that maybe we should get rid of the EDC. We don't need them anymore. So that's pretty much how we've used it. It's really easy to use, and I know that was a really brief presentation, so I guess I'm going to open it up to questions.
Thanks so much, Anne. This is Paul. Anybody that has questions, feel free to type those in if you want to follow up on anything that Anne said. I thought that was really interesting. Just for my own interest here, well, maybe people are typing questions, I'll follow up with a question for you about that last analysis that you talked about. Tell me again, how did you took projects over a period of time and plugged in their capital investments to estimate the taxes? How many projects was it, and over what period of time?
So it was over the last 10 years, and we did not use, there's a couple of major projects that we didn't use, and then we decided out of the ones we were using that we would use 60% of those. So saying 40% would have come without the EDC's help.
Okay.
And so then what we did is we went to the appraisal district website and pulled up all those projects and pulled their history of property tax values. So basically the net increase from when they came here. So whatever it's currently valued at less what it, for example, the land. If the land was now worth $500,000, but before they came here was $100,000, then we use $400,000. And then the value of the buildings that they built, and then their taxable inventory, and that's how we got to the $133 million. Yep. And so then we just put in that, year one we added $133 million. So it's not technically accurate because every year was slightly different, but for a quick and easy analysis, and so that's how we came up with, the city over the last 10 years got over $5 million in revenue, net revenue off of projects we brought in.
That's really cool. I think, some of the things just from my side, we built the model and we kind of know generally what we're trying to do with it, but then hearing some of the uses for it that we didn't even really think about, and how you're finding that helpful for what you're doing, I think that's great. So I really appreciate you sharing.
Hopefully no other of your users will ever find themselves in a situation that they have to justify themselves. But we've kind of gone through a time period where we felt that even though we were doing a lot of the work, that we should let the city itself get the credit.
Mm-hmm.
And I still like that philosophy, but what we'd found is in the general public, people thought we weren't doing anything and that it was just the city that was doing stuff. And so it was sort of like, no, we've done all of this, but we've let the city kind of lead the announcements and be out there. And so it was sort of like, well, let's show you what we've done. And a simple way you can understand your property tax rate is this, it would have been this to get the same amount of revenue if we had not been here to help bring these companies in. So
that's really cool. And one of the things, and this is, I'm getting a little ahead of myself in terms of what we have planned with Impact Dashboard, but we want to, because we do this kind of in a more detailed fashion, on an individual basis for clients that want help with it. But what we want to do is build this into Impact Dashboard, is to be able to say, look, last year, or maybe over a period, maybe it was over the last 10 years, whatever time frame you want to look at, we worked on these projects. And so right now what Impact Dashboard does is just looks at one project, shows you the impact of that. But what we'd like to be able to do is to kind of let you roll those up together to say, okay, these 5 projects had this combined impact on Buda. And so we're heading in that direction, and kind of as we're adding features and so forth, that's something that we want to do. But it's great to hear that you're kind of hacking it, so to speak, to get it to kind of pull some of those numbers for you already. But certainly the more reports and projects that you're running through the model in the future, you'll be able to look back and pull those up kind of in this way that we're talking about. So I'm not seeing any questions, but I'll just kind of say thanks again, Anne, for doing this. And I know you talked about how fast Buda is growing, which absolutely it is. And I think really economic development and the EDC and your role there is to really help kind of guide that, because you might get just some growth as from where you're located, being relatively close to Austin, but you really want to put that in certain directions and have some purpose to it. So I definitely know that that's kind of the role for a lot of these EDCs. So it's interesting to hear everyone's particular situation. But again, thanks so much, Anne. I found this really helpful, so I really appreciate you sharing.
I was going to add one more thing too.
Sure.
We actually ran the Amazon HQ2 information through this model. It didn't break the model, but it was kind of shocking the impact it was going to have. And we had a newspaper call us about that, the Austin submission for that, and trying to explain to them the economic impact. And I'm pretty sure it was in billions of dollars, and it was just, you're trying to explain, well, we use this model and it's billions of dollars of impact to the city if it were to locate here. And I think it was just so large it went over their head. But I was actually surprised that it worked so well in the model because it was such a large project. And then we tried to put in incentives, and it was like our payback period was 0.1 year. So.
Yeah, there's a lot to there's a lot of property that would be coming and associated with that project. So those are definitely some big numbers that you'd be seeing out of Amazon. So all right, well, thanks again, Anne. We really appreciate it, and I may be following up with you just on some of these dealing with the media questions, because I find that aspect of all of this very fascinating. So
all right, well, thank you.
Thanks so much, Anne. We appreciate it.